Hi, this is Elliot Eisenberg of Graphs and Laughs here to catch you up to date on the latest in residential sales data for the month of April. In Hillsborough County, single-fam home prices declined 2.9%. Multifam units declined by less, 2.3%, and that was the best performance across multifam for all three counties. Sales activity slipped for both single and multi, falling a slight 6% on the single fam side and a larger 14.5% on the multifam side, but that was again the best performance for multifam across all three counties. Sales price as a percentage of list price also declined. It's now 97%, which is the highest number across all three counties and both types of properties. On the multifam side, it's a percentage point lower at 96. Pending sales slipped 8.9%, and on the multifam side, they slipped 20.7%. That was the smallest decline for multifamily across all three counties. Lastly, inventory, like it's been doing for a long time, continues to rise. It's now 4 months on the single fam side and now almost 6 months at 5.9 months on the multifam side, and that would be considered a balanced market. In Pasco County, single-fam home prices slid a slight 2.3%. That was the best performance across all three counties and both types of properties. Multifam home prices slid more, median prices. They slid 8.4% year over year. Sales activity in Pasco County on the single-fam side increased 5.5%. That was the best performance and the only increase we saw across all three counties and both types of properties. Multifam sales activity slid a lot more, 33.6%. Sales price as a percentage of list price declined to 96.9, almost as high as 97% in Hillsborough County. That's the highest for single family. On the multifam side, it was 96.7. That was the best multifam performance across all three counties and both types of properties. Pending sales activity on the single fam side here in Pasco rose an impressive 6.9. That was again this is the only county and the only type of property that saw an increase in pending sales activity. Multifam pending sales activity slid 22%. Lastly, inventory, like everywhere else, is up. It's 3.9 months on the single fam side. That's the lowest number across all three counties and both types of properties. For multifam, it's now at 4.6. That's the lowest number across all three counties on the multifamily side. In Pinellas County, single-fam home prices slipped 4.1%. Multifam prices slipped exactly twice as much, 8.2%. Sales activity also declined. It declined on the single-fam side by 9.8% and almost twice as much on the multifam side at 17.6%. Sales price as a percentage of list price slid to 94.9% on the single-fam side and is now 93.1% on the multifam side. Pending sales activity slipped 1.9% on the single fam side and a much beefier 25.4% on the multifam side. Lastly, inventory continues to rise rapidly here as well. It's now 5 months on the single fam side and 8.6 months on the multifam side. There are certainly deals to be had on the multifamily side. If I were ranking the three counties in order, I think I'd put Pasco 1 and close behind Hillsborough, but in somewhat distant third, I would have to say it's Pinellas County. Turning our attention to the national economy, it's a confrontation between the hard data like inflation, unemployment or employment, and consumer spending, which is really quite good, and the soft data, survey data of businesswomen, CEOs, purchasing managers, and so on, which is really quite crummy. And the million-dollar question really is, will the soft data eventually leak into or leach into the hard data, if you will, and cause the economy to weaken? There's reason to believe that it won't, because the tariff file has really gotten a lot calmer of late. That said, there remains a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the area. There's uncertainty about how high the tariffs will be, how broad they'll be, how long they'll last, whether there'll be new ones imposed or they'll be delayed, and so on and so forth. And the tariffs themselves are going to do two things. The uncertainty is going to reduce investment and reduce hiring, and the tariffs themselves will increase inflation. The Fed doesn't know which one of these factors is going to be stronger. As a result, the Fed's going to wait. The Fed wants to wait and do the right thing. They could conceivably increase interest rates if inflation really gets high, which I very much doubt, or they could lower rates if unemployment goes up, which is what I expect to happen, at least to a small extent. But the Fed is unsure. They're going to wait and make sure they jump on the right curve, even if they're late, and they can always cut rates fast at that point, rather than be ahead of the game and be on the wrong curve. So I expect the Fed to cut rates late towards the latter part of this year, early next, but we have to wait and see. Looking at the national housing economy, it's really a dud economy. We're selling at a rate of 4 million units a year. We've been there for quite some time, and this is undoubtedly a very, very weak number. And it's caused by a combination of continually rising home prices and now very high interest rates. The good news is that inventory now at 4.4 months is the highest it's been in quite some time. So nationally, it's still a seller's market, but not nearly as strong a seller's market as it was, and buyers are beginning to have mojo. Here in Florida, the economy continues to do well. The state gross state product continues to do nicely, and unemployment is considerably less than it is in the national economy. In terms of the housing market here in Florida, of course, it continues to cool, much like it is in Texas and other states that did particularly well. Austin's the biggest example. Home prices are down 12 or 13% from the peak. Like in Florida, things were really, really strong with work from home and all that, and COVID and so on. Now that ends, and the appeal of moving down to Florida and so on is much less than it was. And within the state of Florida, it's the single-fam market that's doing better than the multi-fam market. For example, the months of inventory, the multi-fam side is 10.3. By contrast, it's only 5.6 on the single-fam side. Again, the multi-fam side is really hitting it on the chin. Look, to conclude, yes, the cooling in the housing market is not all that surprising given the strength we had in 20 and 21 and 22 and 23. What is surprising is, given all the headwinds, the cooling has been very, very minimal.